Good afternoon. I want to make a quick video to answer the questions that were sent in after my previous video about us returning to 4 days a week of in-person instruction. There were a few questions that were sent to me and that did not relate to the topic of 4-day in-person instruction. I'm not going to answer those questions during this video. I really just want to answer the ones that related to 4-day-a-week instruction. Feel free to email me directly if this is you and you did not get your question answered today. Let's start with a question that was asked several times. Why are we changing the schedule so late in the year? There's not enough time for children to adjust to the schedule, or some variation of those types of questions. As I stated in the first video, the recent guidelines from the CDC, the Virginia Department of Health, the VDH, and the American Association of Pediatricians, guidelines changed. The guidelines stated that as long as students are wearing masks, they could sit closer than 6 feet apart, as few as 3 feet apart. So moving that social distancing while wearing masks in the classroom from 6 foot to 3 foot allowed us to think differently about our in-person instruction. As you know, or perhaps you know, the elementary schools were looking at doing this, so the secondary schools, middle and high school, began looking at whether this was possible as well. So, why now? Why April 20th? The guidelines have changed this spring, and it was a good opportunity for us to do the same. Students who want to be in person can come to school 4 days a week. April 20th is the beginning of the fourth and final quarter of the school year. It was a natural breaking point. Also, because students will be going from 2 days to 4 days, it does require rerouting of every bus in our transportation fleet. Every bus route had to be rerouted. That does take time at the elementary, middle, and high school. That's the reason we chose the April 20th start date for the final quarter. Additionally, it does give us a little bit of information. It will help us moving forward as we look towards next year. Another question that came up, speaking of next year, when will we know? Based on the discussions of the school board at the last meeting, we are planning to move ahead next year with a 5-day in-person instructional week, returning to normal instructional hours and a normal instructional year. That's what I'm planning on doing next fall, or I should say next August when we return to school. Of course, things can change. I don't have all the answers, but that's what we're planning for next year. This 4-day-a-week does give us a little glimpse of how that may work next fall. A question was asked if the uptick in COVID cases around the country in certain spots has any bearing on our April 20th plan. At this time, no, it doesn't. We plan to still go to 4 days a week in-person instruction for the fourth quarter starting April 20th. There were some questions about protocols. Will protocols be changing? Will kids be allowed to hang out? Things like that. All current protocols will remain in place. The only exception is, in some classrooms, the seating space may move from 6 foot to 3 foot. In some cases, the numbers will stay the same, will not change much, and we will still have 6-foot social distancing in class. In the case of band and chorus, the spacing will be reduced from 10 feet to 6 feet under the CDC, VDHS, Virginia Department of Health guidelines. Students will still have chairs and desks that they will be sitting in. They will still need to clean those chairs and desks prior to and post class. All the protocols regarding hallways, walking to and from class, going right to homeroom, or if you do eat breakfast in the cafeteria, you will need to sit in the cafeteria and eat your breakfast at our desk. We will not be putting tables back in the cafeteria. Our lunch shifts will remain the same. We will have desks stationed 6 feet apart. We must still have 6 feet of distance when students are eating because their mask will be off, so we won't be changing that. One difference that I did tell you in the first video was we will be moving to 3 lunch shifts, which is more traditional than we've had in the past. Students, once we have our final numbers, we will determine our 3 lunch shifts and get that information out to our students. At this point, I don't know what lunch shift people will be on. We are working on that currently. Students won't be permitted still to stop and socialize in the hallway. Students will still be required to wear a mask completely over their nose and mouth during the classrooms. Sanitizer as they move to and throughout the school. The only time they can remove their mask is if they are eating. So those things are not changing. We will have sanitation stations will be up all over the school. So our protocols are not changing. The only thing changing is we are going from an A group and a B group to 2 groups. An in-person group that will be here 4 days a week and a virtual group. There were questions about why we were doing this but not returning to a longer instructional day. There was some criticism for making this change, but then wonder why we didn't go longer days. That was never a discussion. It was just a possibility to get our students in person 4 days a week. We felt that could happen. So that is why we're doing that. Another question was asked, if my student is currently virtual, would he be able to switch to in person as of 4/20? As I stated in my first video, if this is something you want for your student or your student would like to do, please email me and I will look to see if we can accommodate more students. We are looking at it and I'm doing the best we can to accommodate students who may wish to return to 4 days a week in-person instruction from the virtual world. So if this is you, feel free to shoot me an email. There was a question regarding the increase of student activity since we are returning to 4 days a week. 4 days a week have no impact really on our student activities. Our spring sports begin next week. A lot of our clubs have been meeting virtually. We are trying to have some meetings in person, so it really doesn't have an impact on what we're currently doing for in-person activities. There were several comments, questions regarding outside work of classwork that really don't relate to the return to 4 days in-person week. But as we've said since the beginning of the year, we are short on instructional hours, so there is a lot of outside activity that has to be done by students, and I cannot, so there are a lot of out-of-class assignments, and I'm aware of that. Finally, there was a question about bus transportation. If your student, I'm going to answer that in 3 parts. If your student currently rides a bus 2 days a week, transportation is working on the routing of all students going 4 days a week. You do not have to do anything. Any changes to pickup times will be coming directly from transportation when we get closer to the April 20th start date. If your student comes 2 days a week and doesn't currently ride the bus, but will now need to ride the bus because they are coming 4 days a week, please let us know. You can email me and I will forward it to our transportation coordinator here, and she'll work that with transportation. Again, if your student comes 2 days a week and you've been bringing them, but you can't bring them 4 days a week and they now need transportation, please let us know. If your student would like to move from virtual to the 4-day-a-week instruction and they need transportation, when you email me, please clearly tell me that they need transportation. We will work on that for you as well. So those are the questions that came forward regarding to the 4-day-a-week instruction. Hopefully those answered those questions, and we look forward to having everybody on the A group and B group back 4 days a week. I think it'll be great. So looking forward to seeing you.